Everyone, welcome to Beyond the Court. We're so happy that you're here joining us once again. My name is Agent P, also known as Pan, and I am joined by Daryl, Nabil, and Anwar, and we have a special guest in the building. The one and only Jack Armstrong joins us today. Jack Armstrong graduated from Fordham University in 1985 with a master's in communication. For the better part of a decade, Jack was the lead basketball coach of Niagara University. In the 92-93 season, he led the Niagara Purple Eagles to a 23-7 record and was named the New York State Division I Coach of the Year. Jack Armstrong is TSN's basketball insider, keeping fans in the loop on everything happening around the NBA and college hoops. He also joins Toronto Raptors play-by-play announcer Matt Devlin as a game analyst for all Raptors broadcasts on TSN. Throughout the NBA season, Jack is featured in regular segments on SportsCenter and writes a weekly NBA blog for tsn.ca. He is also part of TSN's in-studio panel throughout the network's NCAA March Madness coverage. Jack has been a part of the Raptors broadcast team since the year 2000. He has two catchphrases that he uses during game broadcasts. Hello and get that garbage out of here. The get that garbage out of here phrase was also used by Jack in commercials for the City of Toronto government to encourage keeping garbage out of recycling materials. Jack Armstrong is also a three-time winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best Sports Analyst in a Sports Program or Series. His vast knowledge and passion is well known and respected throughout the basketball world. Welcome, Jack, to our podcast.
Thank you for the introduction. The check is in the mail. That's all mine.
Awesome. Welcome, Jack.
Get that garbage out of here.
There we go. There it is. Start off. So, Jack, thank you so much for joining us and welcome. First of all, we just want to ask you, how are you and your family doing during this time amidst everything that's going on, alongside, like the civil unrest and what's happening?
I'm doing fine. I try to get out every morning and run. I ran this morning, and to me, I think that's an important thing, just to get outside and clear your head a little bit. So I try to do that every day. My family's good, thank goodness. I got three sons, and they're all scattered about. I got one son in LA, another in Nashville, another one here at home for the summer from college who's working. And so they're all doing fine, and thank God we're good and safe. And it's been just an incredibly difficult time for everyone across the globe, and with the pandemic, and then the social justice issues have been. It's just been just a sad thing to see that we still haven't reached a point that we've made true progress. And hopefully what's taken place, I always say that sometimes life takes a wrong turn in the right direction. And the fact that we've had a pandemic going on, the one positive of all this is the fact that it's really gotten people's attention. I think if some of these issues had risen to the surface during a time where, life was just in a traditional sense moving along and there were a lot of other things going on, in a lot of ways, unfortunately, might end up on page 7 of the paper rather than page 1. It might end up being in minute 9 of a newscast rather than in minute 1. So it's an opportunity for change. It's an opportunity to really allow people to have the chance to say, hey, no, we need to make some changes here. We need to all make a difference. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but my wife and I, our 3 sons are African-American. We adopted 3 African-American boys.
Right.
So for me, it's a unique thing, being a white male and having 3 African-American sons And
Right.
obviously in the profession that I'm in my previous life as a coach, I'm fortunate enough the majority of the players I coach were black, and in the business that I'm in now, the last 22 years with the Raptors, it's the same thing. So I feel like I have I wouldn't say 100% great feel for it, but I think I have a pretty good feel for it. And having grown up in New York City in the inner city, I've been exposed to a lot of different things. So to me, I always use this line: rules without relationships equal rebellion.
Mm.
Rules with relationships equal respect and results. And right now we have a disconnect, and we need everyone to connect. And I think when people connect, you have an opportunity for respect and you have an opportunity for results. But when you don't have that connection, you have rebellion. And that's what you have right now. You have people that are very angry and upset and ticked off. And there needs to be that area where people come together and find that common ground. Life isn't black and white. Life is gray. It's somewhere in the middle. It's moderation. It's mediation. It's collaboration.
Right.
It's everyone working together, trying to understand and have empathy for each other, and to respect that other person walks in a different set of shoes. And to me, I think so. Those are really important things. And and again, it's just one of those circumstances where I think the NBA, I'm proud to be part of the NBA. And I think our league is the most progressive of the four major sports. I don't think all the nonsense that took place with Colin Kaepernick would have ever happened in the NBA. He would be playing in the NBA right now if he were an NBA player.
Definitely.
So, to me, is the NBA perfect? No, far from it. Are all the people in the NBA perfect? No, far from it. Everyone has room to improve. Everyone has room to grow. And I think what's going on right now is an opportunity to really look in the mirror at ourselves, and to also look at each other and say, how can we impact and how can we make this world a little bit better place? We're not going to snap our fingers, guys, as you know,
Right.
and instantaneously change it. But each and every one of us in our own little way can make the world a little bit better every day.
Definitely.
Amazing. Just kind of segueing over to the next question. You've had an amazing career thus far, from coaching to covering the Raptors now for 20 years, which is amazing. Walk us through that journey and how you were able to kind of make that transition from coaching to an NBA analyst and a broadcaster.
Well, actually, it's been 22 years. A lot of people read that bio. It says 2000. I joined the Raptors in 1998, actually. And the reason I know that was I called Vince Carter's first game as a rookie in Boston.
That's right.
Against Paul Pierce with Chuck Swirsky. That was the first game we ever did. And that was the 98-99 season. It was the 50-game lockout season.
Right.
And so it's been 22 years, and I'm not, somebody's giving you bad info. No. That happens a lot. Well, I don't know. I think it's Wikipedia, one of those things. I don't know. I don't know who puts all that nonsense out. But it's been a great 22 years, and prior to that, I spent 14 years as an NCAA Division I coach, 4 years at Fordham, 10 years at Niagara, and I was a high school coach prior to that. So I can't thank basketball enough. I can't thank that orange ball enough. From the time I was 7 years old playing basketball in Brooklyn, and here I am 57, for 50 years, that orange ball has given me joy. And I always say to kids, for you, that might be a piano or a guitar, or it might be law or music or song or dance, social work, whatever it may be. If you can find that thing in your life that you love, and you get up every morning and you got a little pep in your step, go for it, man. And I feel like, you know, I have 3 older brothers who've all done quite well for themselves. And they used to say to me, "Are you nuts? You know, I have a bachelor's degree in history, and you mentioned I have a master's in communications, but, you know, they're like, what the hell are you going to do with a history degree?" I said, "Well, I can tell you when the War of 1812 was. I wanted to be a high school history teacher. I wanted to be a basketball coach. You know, that to me was like a cool thing."
Right.
And, you know, they're going, what are you, crazy? You know, like, but I've always, with my life, done what I wanted to do. And my love of that orange ball led me to where I am right now. And I encourage you guys, and I encourage everybody that I chat with, if you can find that thing in your life that that is a career that brings you joy. Now, every job's got nonsense and BS and politics, and, you know, I've been through all that nonsense. I get it. Nonetheless, there's still the joy of when you're in the gym and the sneakers are squeaking and the ball is in play, and, you know, you get to a different place. And for me, so in a long roundabout way, I apologize, is that I feel really fortunate to have had 2 careers with something that I fell in love with at 7 years old. And I've had great life lessons. I've learned a lot about myself. I've succeeded. I've failed, everywhere in between. It's helped me grow. It's helped me build my character. And I can't thank that ball enough. And I think athletics is a great character builder. I think it challenges us to really grow up and mature, and to learn to share, and to learn to respect each other. So I think that's the great thing about sports, is that all the political nonsense you hear about and all that, when you get in the gym and you start playing, all that stuff goes away. You know, you're just balling, you're just hooping. And you know, you're on the same team, and you're just trying to accomplish a goal of winning as a group. There's a brotherhood there. And so I think sports teaches us so many great things. And I feel like I'm really fortunate to have gotten into that. And when I look back on the challenges of, like, why do you want to why do you want to be in basketball? What are you going to do with that with your life? Now I'm the cool uncle. You know, so, you know,
There it is.
so those guys all did better than me, and I'm this stupid basketball coach. But nonetheless, guess what? You know what? I'm doing with my life what I love to do with it, and I love my brothers dearly, and I know they're proud of me, and I'm very proud of them. And but we all have to find that path, each and every one of us. And I'm really lucky to have had this career and these careers, because I fell in love with something and I decided to stay with it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Okay. Next question, Jack. As a Raptors broadcaster, you've seen a variety of coaches coach the Raptors. As an analyst, do you find yourself making in-game adjustments alongside the coaches while calling the game on the sidelines? And how would you compare the coaching style of Dwayne Casey versus Nick Nurse? Kind of a two-part question.
Yeah, that's fine. First of all, I always try to first guess. Honestly, I do. I try as best as I can to say, you know, this is what I think I would do, rather than let it happen and then second guess. I do the best I can. Now, there have been times I have, but I try my best to first guess. And then I also try to poke fun at myself and kind of make light of the fact that, hey, look at my career record. I don't know what Wikipedia has. They got my, but I can tell you my career record was 100 and 154. I got fired. I was a lousy coach. So I try to joke about that.
They got it backwards on WikiJack.
It's
154 to 100, right?
Oh, that's great.
above 500, way above 500.
And those people know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
That's right.
You know, so I try to first guess. I try to frame it and give you a gem. I try to tell you why something happened and how something happened. But I do the best I can to try to, say this is what the coach might be thinking. Here are his options, and try to. And I study analysts in all different. I think Tony Romo is a fabulous analyst.
Yeah.
On the NFL, and I study different analysts in different sports. But I think if you can try to first guess as much as possible, I think that's important. The second part of your question was, Dwayne Casey and Nick Nurse. Both of them are fabulous coaches. When I think of sensational, high impact, high level coaches, when I reflect on the Raptors, those two guys would be right at the top of the list. Dwayne Casey did an amazing job in Toronto, putting a foundation in place and teaching everyone in the organization what it means to win. He carried himself in a first-class manner. He's a terrific basketball man. He's a man who paid his dues as a college coach, internationally, pro assistant, pro head coach. And he is, you're not going to find a finer gentleman than Dwayne Casey. And the guy walked his talk. A lot of people talk a good game, but they don't live it. Dwayne is one of those guys that was a true positive example for the players. He stood his ground and stood by his principles when need be. He was flexible when he needed to be flexible. And he was one of those guys that really laid an amazing foundation for success. And, a big part of why the Raptors, again, this year will be in the playoffs, year 7 in a row, is because of the foundation that Dwayne Casey laid. And then when you talk about Nick, I think Nick is one of those guys that has a remarkable sense in game of adjusting and being creative. I think he's a guy that I really like the fact that when I'm around him, he never focuses on what he doesn't have. He only focuses on what he does. I've been around a lot of coaches over the years that, a lot of times cry over spilt milk and don't focus on what they have in front of them. And I think Nick's experience of coaching overseas and coaching in the G League, D League, and really helped him develop a skill set that, like, hey, man, whatever I got in front of me, I'm rolling with it. Mm-hmm. And, obviously coaching in the situation in Orlando is a different thing than anyone's used to. But I think I think Nick has the skill set to do that. I think in terms of differences between the two, they're a lot more similar than you think. Because if you look at the Raptors right now and the type of team that they are, they're one of the elite defensive teams in the league. A big part of their success a year ago had to do with defense. And, Dwayne's mantra was all about defense when he got here. And Nick, as much as he was given a reputation as an offensive guy, Nick's a basketball coach. Right. And I always say about Nick, it's like Don Shula, the legendary NFL coach. He can take his and beat yours. He can take yours and beat his. I think he's a good basketball coach. I think he can coach offense. He can coach defense. He can coach special teams. He can do whatever the hell you want him to do. He's a really good coach, as is Dwayne Casey. And, unfortunately, in the pro game and even in the college game, been there, done that, many times, right, wrong, or indifferent, people reach a shelf life and, they just want organizations and GMs and owners want a new voice. Many times that ends up not working out because you're just shuffling the chairs. And sometimes it does work out. But I think a big part of the success of the Raptors has a lot to do with the foundation that Dwayne laid. And at the same time, I think if you look at the job Nick did with the acquisition of Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green last year, he did an amazing job. I don't think he gets enough credit. So Kawhi gets so much credit, and Kawhi is a great player, and he deserves a lot of credit. Nick doesn't get enough credit because that was an incredibly pressurized situation.
Right.
That there were a lot of uptight people last year, and to me, when people ask me, I've actually had maybe as much fun, maybe more fun this season than I did last season, because there was just such an underlying tension about, will Kawhi stay? Will Kawhi go?
Right.
Hey, we're all in this year. If we don't win it, it's going to be a complete failure. And I think for Nick to handle the job the way he did as a first-year head coach in the NBA is remarkable. And the last thing I'll say is this. Dwayne and Nick have something very much in common. They both have head coaches' personalities. There are certain guys that are better suited being a lieutenant. And I think both of them, when they were lieutenants and they were assistants, were very good, very loyal, hardworking, and they provided an impact for the head coach that they worked for at different parts during their career. But nonetheless, when Dwayne Casey walks in a room and when Nick Nurse walks in a room, they both have the stature of a head coach. And to me, I think there's a lot more similar than there is different.
Awesome. You had mentioned Orlando, and segueing into this current season now, various analysts have labeled this season an eventual champion as having an asterisk, kind of due to the whole situation with COVID and certain players maybe not playing. How do you feel about that situation? Do you feel that that is the case, that they, would have an asterisk?
Okay, I'm going to throw it back at you. Do you know who the champion was in the 98-99 season and the champion in the 2011-2012 season?
So 98-99, I want to say, are you talking about the Spurs when they beat the Knicks?
You're right.
Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And 2000, sorry, you said 2010.
11-12, yeah. The other lockout season.
I honestly cannot remember.
It wasn't Dallas, right? Dallas was the year before.
Yeah, so Miami.
Miami, okay.
So when I go to Miami and when I go to San Antonio and I see those banners, let's ask each of us, think about it for a second. If the bunch of us went to the game together, now you're going to be buying me the beer since I'm doing this.
Exactly.
MGD, right? MGD.
If we're sitting together, you're going to be running along to that stand. If I'm off duty, I'm going to be enjoying a few beers.
There it is, yeah.
So if we're in the stands, all of us are hanging out together, how many people do you think in San Antonio and Miami look up at that banner and even know that it was in a lockout season?
Very fair, yeah.
Very, very minimal.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Probably zero, yeah.
So, all these expert analysts are saying, well, asterisk, this, that, the other thing. We played 50 games that year. That was my first year in the NBA. That other season was 66 games. If I'm not mistaken, the Raptors have played 64 games right now.
Right.
They will play another 8. That'll get them up to 72.
Right.
So actually, this season has more validity than the other two. And then on top of that, you throw in the difficulty. Here's the thing that really drives me crazy. This is the one thing I've had a problem with, to answer your question. I think it's going to be even harder to win this year because they are, in my opinion, not doing right by the teams that have had a great season. In those other 2 years, the teams that had home court actually had home court.
Right.
Now, because of the unfortunate situation that we're in, now, if you are the Clippers, the Raptors, the Bucks, the Lakers in particular, and then work your way to the Rockets and the Celtics and the Heat, people like that, kind of the top seeds in each conference, those teams are not getting what benefit are they getting for a 70, 72 game season of grinding it out? Think of, we're all forgetting about February and January and December and winning back-to-back games and grinding your way through injuries and sickness and bad weather and all sorts of stuff. And now what do you have to show for it? So in my opinion, I think this champion is probably more fitting and deserving than maybe those other 2 years that those banners are flying up there and nobody even remembers it. So, and here's the last thing I'll say to that is the fact that when you reflect on we had and we're taping this on Tuesday, July 21st. I'm not sure when it's gonna air, but the NBA put out a release late yesterday afternoon that everyone in the bubble, nobody tested positive.
Right.
Which is a positive. Now is that going to stay the way the whole time? Who knows?
Right.
There'll probably be positive tests. The reality is we have to expect that. But you know what? There's probably going to be a knee injury. There's probably going to be an ankle injury. There's probably going to be a shoulder injury. There's probably going to be a concussion. Those things are going to happen, just like potentially we could have a positive test. So if people are going to freak out if Giannis tests positive, let's not forget that you should probably then freak out if James Harden has a high ankle sprain that has him out for a month. So bottom line is, I think it's going to be whoever wins this thing, and I guess it'll have to play out, and we'll all have to experience it together. And your guess is as good as mine. But just my own opinion is, I will have tremendous respect for whoever that champion is. I hope it's the Raptors, and if it's not, I'll give whoever they are their due. And because when we all go to that arena years later, and I know you're all going to take me for a few cocktails, and we'll watch the movie.
Exactly.
Hopefully it's the Scotiabank Arena, and we see another banner up there.
100%.
Definitely.
They give me a night off, and we can hang out, look up at that banner, and say, "Hey, look, there's no asterisk next to that."
Exactly.
Hey, man, they're our champions. So, I don't know. You're right. I mean, there's a lot of people with that opinion. I would just say, having been a history major, those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it. And I think when you do study history and you have an historical background and historical perspective on things, and you dig a little deep, you go, wait a minute, I totally forgot about those 2 years, and nobody's even talking about them anymore. So let's lighten up on that a little bit for all those experts out there that want to slag whoever that winner is going to be. And let's hope there is a winner.
Oh, 100%. And you mentioned like the difficulties and especially for the Raptors to try to repeat. Along those lines, what are your thoughts about the Raptors repeating this year? And if you had to choose maybe a team or two from each conference that you think might pose a threat to the Raptors, if you can share those teams that you think might be a threat to the Raptors this season.
Well, number one, I think the Raptors are absolutely a contender. When you evaluate the fact that they have the third best record in the NBA, they have the second best record in the East going into this tournament here now, and the fact that they were absolutely decimated with injuries. How many times did they have their top 8 players together on the floor at any one time? And yet, and I personally, and they're one of the elite defensive teams in the league. I think their offensive numbers are skewed a little bit to a negative perspective because they didn't have all their best players. And I think that really hurts your offense. So I think if they're able to stay healthy, you'll see an even better offensive team. Now, to me, I think they're right there in the hunt. I think a tournament like this favors teams that have maturity, professionalism, togetherness, experience, role definition, great coaching. They have all that, and here's the other thing about the Raptors. They have the same exact record at home as they do it on the road. So to me, the team I'm fascinated by, and I don't know the answer to it, is Philadelphia is an amazing team at home, and they're a terrible road team.
Yeah.
So now, are they going to be? Is the neutral going to help them or hurt them? I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to look like. But my point is, I think I don't know if it was Aristotle or Socrates, I can't remember. Some smart guy said, "Excellence is a habit, not an act."
Aristotle.
I don't think the Raptors are actors. I think they have habits. And I think habits travel. And habits hold up under any condition, home, road, neutral. And so to me, I like their body of work, and I feel very comfortable calling them a contender. Are they going to be the champion? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Will there be other teams? Obviously, the two LA teams out west are fabulous. Utah probably has taken a step back because Bogdanovich is out. Denver's very, very dangerous. There's something missing with them, though. Every time I watch them, they're really good, and then they'll lose to a team. I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you that night?
Yeah, but now Jokic is back, right? Jokic has lost like 20 pounds, it looks like, 20, 30 pounds or something, right? So
they're terrific. There's just something about them that I'm still, Houston playing small ball, they're dangerous. Obviously in the East, Milwaukee is tremendous. They steamrolled the league last year. They steamrolled the league this year. Now they have to prove themselves in postseason that they have what it takes. And Mike Budenholzer has to prove himself in postseason. He did a great job in Atlanta. He's done a great job in Milwaukee. Now he's got to get him to the promised land. There's a lot of pressure there with Giannis in his pending contract.
Right.
Boston is a terrific team. They've had injuries as well. I thought they had a really solid season. Those would be the teams. I mean, obviously Philadelphia is a super dangerous team because they have two guys, if they stay healthy, that'll end up in the Hall of Fame one day in Simmons and Embiid. But again, the splits between home and road is so significant. But on the other hand, they're a matchup nightmare. And I tell you what, here's another team people forget a little. They sleep on a little bit. I think Miami's tough. They guard. They have an elite player in Jimmy Butler. They have a great coach in Eric Spoelstra. And last but not least, they have a lot of three-point shooting. And now that they're healthy, they can spread the floor. They play good. They do a good job playing their zone. So those would be some of the teams in the mix. And I'm not saying anything that you don't know. I just think, do the Raptors belong in that discussion? Yes, absolutely. They definitely belong at the big boy table in that discussion. The problem is you have a lot of people that don't even mention the Raptors in that discussion. And I think they have every right to be in the midst of that discussion.
So Jack, awesome takes there. I think, we're going to segue over into the rapid fire questions now, almost a session with Jack. The first question here that I wanted to ask you was, with your coaching background and mind for the game, was there a coach who inspired you professionally to get into coaching? And is there a current NBA coach who emulates Jack Armstrong's X's and O's or overall style of play?
Wow. Well, there were a lot of coaches that impacted me in my career. I would say the two guys I worked for as an assistant coach at Fordham, Tom Penders, who's going to be in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. Tom left Fordham, went on eventually to become the head coach at the University of Texas. And then a guy, Nick McCarchick, who I worked for there. Guys that very helpful to me when I was the head coach at Niagara that both played at Niagara, actually. Frank Layden, the former president, GM and head coach of the Utah Jazz, drafted Karl Malone, John Stockton, UB Brown, who's still on television. UB and Frank actually played basketball and baseball together at Niagara back in the 50s, and both have really made an impact on me. I would say, I have so many coaching mentors. Lou Carnesecca, the Hall of Fame coach at St. John's. Paul Westhead, who won an NBA championship with the Los Angeles Lakers and coached Loyola Marymount when they had those great teams. And Paul's son, I coached at Fordham. And just so many different people. Pete Gillen, former head coach, University of Virginia. Notre Dame assistant, helped me get into college coaching, coached at my high school in Brooklyn, Nazareth High School. But those would be a lot of guys that coach in the NBA now. You know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I was out of control. I coached every pass. I coached every cut. I was incredibly emotional and intense. So I would say that most coaches today in the NBA are buttoned up and look nice in their suits. So I was more demonstrative and out of control a little bit. But I would say, you know, when I look at coaches that were very vocal and animated on the sideline, that would be, you know, so you look at guys like a Don Nelson or a Jerry Sloan, guys that were, you know, got after the refs a little bit, a Doug Collins. Those would be some guys that probably would, in some way, but, you know, a lot of the guys now are pretty calm. But when I look at coaching principles, but you know, I look at a guy like Dwayne Casey. There's no doubt that when he was just music to my ears when he coached the Raptors, because he was a guy that was steady as a rock, knew what he wanted to get accomplished, and you know, what's vision? I think vision's seeing the end product before you start the journey. And I thought Dwayne had a really good vision for what good basketball looked like.
Awesome.
All right. Often we see good players or even great players, but they don't necessarily are the great leaders that we need them to be. In your opinion, what makes a player a good leader?
I would say the most important thing is earning the respect of everyone in the room. And I think that is your actions. I think we have a lot of people that talk a good game. If I'm going to follow you, I need to see your actions. To me, I think that's the most important thing, is your actions. So I think a guy like Kawhi Leonard last year, Kawhi doesn't say a lot. But would I want to play with Kawhi Leonard? Yes, absolutely, because I respect that dude. You know, he shows up and he practices hard. He's all business. When he crosses the line in the game, you know, if you're on the other team, you're not his friend. He's there to take your head off and beat you.
Nice.
And he's all business. He's an assassin, you know. And so to me, leadership comes in a lot of different ways. Some guys are very vocal leaders. I think Kyle Lowry in his own way is a leader. You know, by giving up his body, the guy he's one of the all-time greats in NBA history in my eyes of being able to take charges.
Definitely.
The guy is just elite, you know, in terms of just how hard he plays the game. I look at Marcus Gasol; he's more verbal, and yet he's verbal in a way that there's such a level of substance behind it. You look at him when he chats with Fred VanVleet or Norm Powell or Pascal Siakam, there's an amazing look at their eyes. The exchange is awesome because it's basketball intellect, guys with exchanging ideas. I mean, Fred VanVleet's a brilliant guy. And you know, so the Raptors have a lot of guys like that. And but I think in general, when you ask about leadership can be vocal. And that's good, but the vocals got to be backed up with action.
Right.
So I think there's got to be consistency there. So if I had to value one over the other, I would say, you know, John Wooden, the Hall of Fame coach, he had a great poem. He used to call it "The Little Eyes Upon You." And you know, as a father of 3 boys, and prior to that in my coaching life, you know, people are always watching you. People are always looking up to you, and you know, they might hear what you say, but more importantly, they watch what you do. And so I would say actions would trump words.
Awesome. Okay, well, stepping away from basketball for a second, Jack. So we understand you've completed several marathons over your time, including the Boston Marathon. Was there a memorable marathon that stood out for you that you took part in?
Well, I've done 7. I've done New York 4 times, Chicago twice, and I've done the Boston Marathon. Boston was the last one. I think it was 2001. I have the medals over on the wall over there. I think it's 2001 was the last one I did. I continued. I've done a bunch of half marathons since. During this pandemic, I've been doing a lot of miles. I thought about doing another marathon. We'll see. It's a lot of work. It's quite a commitment, and quite frankly, I have no idea what my schedule is. Even fingers crossed, things open up eventually. But even at that point, I don't know what the NBA schedule is going to look like, and even if I wanted to train for a marathon, I don't know when I'd be able to.
Right.
So, but I guess memorable. My first New York marathon, having grown up in Brooklyn, running over the Verrazano Bridge, and you're on the bridge and you turn to your left and you look out at New York Harbor, and you look at the Statue of Liberty, and back then the Twin Towers, and just the magnificence on a Sunday morning of the sun rising and your hometown. And then you're running over the bridge, and I'm running into my home borough, Brooklyn. And you run through Brooklyn, and then you run into Queens, and then Manhattan, and then the Bronx, and then back down into Manhattan through Central Park, and having my family there. And so that's memorable. And obviously the Boston Marathon, which is the granddaddy of them all.
Right.
Now, again, I'm a New Yorker. I can't stand the Celtics. I can't stand the Red Sox. I'm a Bills fan. I definitely can't stand the Patriots.
Right.
And they're the most obnoxious sports fans. And I have a lot of relatives there and friends. And but it was a really cool experience to run that race. And it was an incredibly hard race to train for, because the Boston Marathon's in April. So now, as you know, where we all live, running in January, February isn't a fun thing outdoors, where there's ice and snow and high winds, and it sucks, quite frankly, training for it. And I'm traveling a lot with the Raptors. So that was a difficult race to train for. So there was a great sense of accomplishment when I finished it. Literally, I think I had a Raptor game one day, flew to Boston, ran the race, and then came back and did a Raptor game the next day.
Wow.
It's in 2001, I think. So, those are, it's a great, I love it. I to this day, I still love running. I play tennis. I don't play basketball anymore because I don't want to have someone elbow me in the head. Tennis is a lot safer sport at my age than basketball. And honestly, you get the same workout pretty much as you do in basketball with the east-west, north-south, stop-start. It's a lot of cardio. It's very intense. But I love it. And again, you guys asked me how I'm doing in the pandemic. I think that's helped me keep my sanity a little bit. I love to listen to music. I get out and run, and I just relax, and I get in a different place.
Great.
So listening to you over the last 2+ decades commentating, we know you have two famous catchphrases. I'm not going to attempt them, but hello and get that garbage out of here. If you had to choose one, which one gets your juices flowing when making those calls?
Woo!
If you had to choose one.
I would say, because get that garbage out of here is only for block shots, where hello is for any great play that I see. So I would probably say hello. Hello is because there is something, a lot of times that's a alley-oop, tip dunk, or just any kind of remarkable play that gets people totally out of their seats. Whereas get that garbage out of here is kind of isolated a little bit to someone blocking a shot. But, they've both been people. I have little kids come up to me and they mimic me in my Brooklyn accent. And I don't know, it's just kind of taken off. I don't know why. It just comes to me, and I say a lot of stupid things on the air, and but I have a lot of fun doing it. And you know what? I always say, when you do this for a living, you got to meet the moment. And to me, I think I get fired up to do a game. I have a little checklist I look at the morning of the game. I do, just kind of reminding myself of things mentally to be prepared for. And I prepare for the game, obviously, whoever the Raptors are playing that game and all that. But I always say, my job's to meet the moment. And, coming up here in Orlando, it's a new, unique moment where we're going to be calling games remotely. And then the game is going to be played in a gym with no fans.
Right.
I mean, I've done events like this before. I've done Olympic qualifiers, world championships, and things like that remotely, not at the site. But there's always been fans in the building that these guys are playing in. So it's a totally different experience. And I've been trying to study the baseball guys because I'm a huge baseball fan of watching the little practice games that Major League Baseball is playing and seeing how these guys are handling it. Now, their sport's a lot different because it's very conversational, whereas ours is boop, 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 boop. It's very rapid fire.
Right.
So it'll be a learning experience, but it'll be a new experience. I'm excited about it. It's my job to meet the moment, and I hope to be a better analyst in October than I was here in July. I want to keep growing, and that's how you keep getting better. That's how you keep improving.
Definitely.
Great. So next question, Jack, just want to throw a two-part question at you here. So first part here is in no particular order, who is on Jack Armstrong's NBA Mount Rushmore of all time? And then the second part to that is who is on Jack Armstrong's Toronto Raptor Mount Rushmore of all time?
Well, I'll do the Raptor one first. I would say Kyle Lowry would be number one.
Yeah.
I would say Vince Carter would be number two because of the impact that he had on the sport. I honestly say this, if Vince Carter played in Vancouver rather than Toronto, I think Toronto would have had an NBA team no matter what. But I think Vancouver would still have a team, and Canada would have two NBA teams right now.
Right.
So that's the impact he had on the sport in Canada. I would say Kawhi Leonard because of the amazing season that he had with the Raptors. I wish he had stayed. And at the same time, I understand he wanted to go home and play in LA. Kawhi's a good guy, total pro. I enjoyed my year with him. He's a good man. I would say he would be that guy. And then probably the other two guys would be Chris Bosh. And Chris unfortunately didn't have great teams to play on, but Chris was a pro and Chris was a heck of a player. I think Chris Bosh deserves to be in the Hall of Fame someday. I think if health hadn't done him in, there's no question he would be in the Hall of Fame. So someday I think he'll get in. And then DeMar DeRozan, one of my all-time favorites, just a truly good person and a great player and a guy who just got better and better every year.
Right.
And just a true consummate professional that I have a lot of respect for. I have so many other guys that I love personally that I would want to put up there as well. But those in terms of the best players. And then NBA Mount Rushmore, I would definitely obviously say, in my lifetime. Now, I didn't really get to see Bill Russell play in person. And on Oscar Robertson, I saw at the end of his career. And those guys were tremendous players. I would say definitely Michael Jordan, Kareem. They would be, right at the top of the list. I think LeBron James deserves to be there. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Those would be a few of the guys that I would put right up there. I'm probably forgetting Kobe Bryant. Those would be. Shaquille O'Neal was a dominant force. But there's so many guys, so many great players that I could put up there. But those would be a few on both fronts.
Awesome. Well, Jack, our last question here. We had Eric Smith on our podcast recently, and he spoke highly about the mentorship and guidance you have provided to him over the years. Who would you say has been your mentor, and what is the best piece of advice you have received in your career, either personally or professionally?
Wow. Well, I'll do that two parts. Mentorship and guidance are important to me. I would say in my career, we've already talked about basketball, coaching. I would say in broadcasting, I would say a guy, Nelson Millman, who used to be the program director at the Fan 590, who along with the Raptors hired me 22 years ago. He hired Chuck Swirsky and I and gave us both an opportunity. Chuck's now at the Chicago Bulls. Actually, I owe Chuck a phone call. He texted me. I got to get back to him later today. So Nelson Millman. I would say John Shannon, who used to run Leafs and Raptors TV, was the executive director of Hockey Night in Canada and vice president of the NHL. John gave me my break in television and really thought that I could do the job in television as well as radio. And I had done a lot of TV in the United States, doing college basketball for ESPN and Fox and MSG Network. And he felt, based upon my work with that and had seen it, believed in me. Paul Graham, Mark Milliere from TSN, those guys were incredible supporters of mine, and just really have believed in me and given me the opportunity. There's so many people that when I reflect in my career that, a guy like Scott Moore, who hired me at Sportsnet many years ago as well. But those would be some of the guys I would say would be from a broadcast perspective. And I still stay in touch with all those guys to get their view on how am I doing. And I've always said to them, shoot straight with me. Tell me what you think. If there are things that I need to improve on, if I'm slipping in an area, keep me sharp.
Right.
So I think it's important to have people to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Right.
In a lot, you have to seek out coaching, because in our business, very few people coach you and mentor you. And if you don't do that, you get stale. And you got to keep growing. You got to keep improving. You got to always strive to be better. And I think, and then in terms of mentorship, personally, I have one. People ask me all the time when I speak. A lot of times you speak at basketball camp, and a little kid will raise his hand and say, Coach Armstrong, who's your hero? And they think I'm going to say, Bill Russell or Oscar Robertson or Kobe Bryant or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, or whatever. And I always say, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? I have one hero, and my hero is my mom. My mom's 93. She lives in New York City. And, she raised 4 boys in a little apartment building in Brooklyn. My dad died of a heart attack when I was 7 years old. My mom was a school lunch lady at PS 238 in Brooklyn. And she served breakfast and lunch every day when Stephon Marbury was a little kid. And she raised, my mom and dad are immigrants from Ireland. So I'm first generation. And I did not grow up in any way, shape, or form with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up poor. And when I lost my dad, times were very difficult. And my mom helped me and my 3 older brothers. She showed us the right path. And growing up in Brooklyn at that time, in New York, was a rough place. I had a lot of friends go the other way with crime and drugs and a lot of bad, what. And when I reflect on my life and where I am in my life now, everything comes back to one person, and that's my mom. And I call my mom every day, as I will today. I call her every single day, and I always finish my conversation on the phone with her with the 3 most important words we can say to somebody, and that's "I love you."
Yeah.
And so she's my hero, and she's the most important person in my life. And I definitely hit a home run and overachieved with my wife. And my wife is a former coach. She was a women's soccer coach, Division I coach, as well as a women's basketball assistant. And I hit a home run with her, and I hit a home run with my kids. And I feel very blessed, and I feel very fortunate. During this pandemic and during all this, social unrest, I think you have an opportunity to reflect on a lot of things. And, you try to reflect in your life and say all the blessings that you have and all the good things that you have going. So I feel very fortunate and very blessed.
Awesome. Thank you,
Beautifully
Jack.
said.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Jack, and just awesome takeaways as a whole, just in terms of everything that's happening as well. We also want to shout out and plug Jack's website, hellojack.ca, and his clothing line, Hello Jack Apparel. Some awesome apparel on there. So I encourage our viewers and listeners to check out the website. Also want to plug Jack's Instagram handle at Jack Hello with 3 O's at the end of the hello there. Jack, was there anything else that you want to plug and promote? I know you said that, in terms of the scrimmages, we're starting shortly in the next couple of days. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention as well?
Well, yeah, the scrimmages start Friday, so we got it on TSN Friday night against the Houston Rockets. Matt Devlin and I will be working, so I'm looking forward to that. And I just got to ask you, so you had Eric Smith on before me, so that's like going from Mickey Mantle to now Mickey Mouse.
No, not at all.
You've really lowered your standards. You have Eric Smith, and now you have me. So, man, oh man, I don't know who you're gonna have next, but whoever you have is gonna be a major step up.
Not at all.
I appreciate you guys promoting the site, and yeah, there's always some great T-shirts and hats there and all that. But thanks for doing that, and again, thank you for having me on. It was an honor and privilege to join you today, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you personally someday at a game.
Likewise.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
so
Jack,
much.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
taking the time, to spend time with us. And we hope we can do this again in the future, like you said, in person, and just to connect in that way as well. And hopefully one day we get to go to that game, look up at the Raptors with a banner, and we'll definitely get you some cold ones. So we got you.
All right. I'd
Awesome.
love to do that.
There it is. There it is. There you guys have it, guys. Another episode of Beyond the Court comes to a close with our special guest, the one and only Jack Armstrong, TSN's NBA insider and Raptors broadcaster for the defending NBA champion Toronto Raptors. Don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button. We'll also have the details of Jack's website and Instagram handle mentioned in the video description below. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Be safe. Stay blessed.